Well, welcome everyone. I am so thrilled to see all of you here, and we have several members of the San Jose Japanese American Citizen Alliance, Citizen League, and the Florin Japanese American Citizen League, and we're going to talk today about solidarity between Japanese American and Muslim American communities, particularly through very important special events that have been happening for a long time, which is a pilgrimage to Manzanar, which is one of the incarceration camps during World War II of Japanese Americans by the US government. So I would just going to ask each of you to just say your name and which JACL you're affiliated with, and then we will proceed from there. So just let you go around.
I'm Melanie Shojinaga, and I am with the San Jose JACL.
I'm Madison Tanichi, and I'm also at the San Jose JACL.
Josh Kaizuka with the Florin chapter of the JACL.
And Andy Noguchi with the Florin/Sacramento Valley chapter of the JACL.
Thank you all for being here so much. I'm very eager for this conversation. And I wanted to start off by asking what brought you, and maybe Andy, you can start with this one, to organize the Manzanar Pilgrimage.
Well, actually, the Florin Manzanar Pilgrimage was inspired by the Muslim community. You know, my wife and I, we attended an interfaith meeting at a local Islamic temple a few years after 9/11. And the speaker there, Imam Muhammad Aziz, was talking to the mainly Muslim population and audience. And he said, if you want to really understand what we as Muslims are facing today, go to Manzanar. So my wife and I looked at each other and said, we haven't been to Manzanar either, you know. So because of that inspiration from Imam Aziz, we started organizing the first pilgrimage about 15 years ago and worked to jointly organize it with the local CAIR chapter here.
Oh, great. Thanks, Andy. And Maddie or Mel, do you want to say something about how you import or exported it to San Jose?
Yeah, so Maddie and I were involved with the Florin JACL while we were students at UC Davis. And then once we graduated, we both moved back home to the Bay Area. And I was kind of like, Maddie, don't you kind of miss it? Don't you kind of like want to do something? And so we spoke with the San Jose JACL through Andy. I was like, Andy, can you like nudge one of your friends so I can talk to them at the San Jose JACL? And he was like, sure, Mel. And so we approached them and we were like, hey, we have this cool idea. Since you guys don't have a Manzanar pilgrimage, and Maddie and I have like kind of done it a little bit twice as college students, like maybe we can try and offer this, like, I guess, insight into our own cultural identity to the local San Jose community. And so we kind of just wanted to be able to offer the same experience that we had in college to the local community in the Bay, because that's probably one of the next most like Asian groups, like the San Jose, Japantown, like that population is where a lot of Japanese Americans are in NorCal. And so we're like, this is the spot, we're here too. Let's try and make it happen and offer this like amazing experience to the people around us.
Great. And so Andy, you were saying that just organizing the first pilgrimage from the Florin JACL was inspired through someone in the Muslim community. And can you say more about what your thoughts were about inviting CAIR from the beginning and their participation?
Well, it was a natural continuing relationship with CAIR. Actually, we started working with people in the Muslim community around the 1991 Gulf War in Iraq, when the backlash started growing against Muslim Arab peoples. And we worked with the founders of the CAIR chapter here at that time in 1991. CAIR hadn't started in this area by that time. So when we decided to go ahead with the pilgrimage, we'd already worked with CAIR for a number of years and on a lot of joint projects. And I think that we felt that because of the Japanese American community's experience, facing backlash and racism before, and being blamed for the actions of those outside of our country, that there were a lot of similarities the Muslim community was facing. So we wanted to reach out our hand in friendship and solidarity with CAIR and the Muslim community from years back.
And Maddie, do you want to say, I know that Mel was saying that you used the template from the Florin JCL, but you must have found meaningful the solidarity or the partnership with CAIR in order to continue that. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had a really strong partnership with Osama Kamel. He was our representative from CAIR on our first pilgrimage. And it was super meaningful because we got to do Friday prayer during that trip, and it was like in the middle of a park in Bakersfield. It was a very uncomfortable experience, but I think that was worth it, to like step into someone else's shoes and really be like, this is uncomfortable for me. It gives you a strong perspective of like, these people go through, like Muslims go through this all the time, every day. And I don't think I had experienced that before because I was 5 when 9/11 happened. So living in a Trump America was kind of my first time of like being uncomfortable day to day as a person of color. And that's just from a place of privilege, right? But I think experiencing it firsthand was really like powerful for me and really meaningful. So yeah.
And Josh, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the first time you went on one of the pilgrimages and what it was like to be there in general, and also with CAIR's participation and partnership?
When I got invited to participate in the pilgrimage, I wasn't really sure. I knew about the incarceration of Japanese Americans, 120,000. I went to law school and we read Koromatsu. And so, kind of knew the basics, and also that in times of war, the US Supreme Court said it was okay to take people's liberties away without due process. And it was fascinating to see the diverse group of people on the bus. And I wasn't sure what to expect. And there were people who were former incarcerees who talked about their stories. I think maybe even on the first bus trip, I think there were people from Jewish Voice for Peace, who stood up for the rights of Palestinians in Israel. There were people from CAIR, and it was just such a diverse group of people. I was just fascinated. And, people were talking about their own feelings and what they were expecting on this pilgrimage and why they were going on the pilgrimage. And, actually going to the site, I've been to the site before just to kind of take a look on one of my motorcycle rides. But I had never actually gone and experienced it with a group of people who actually had been in the camps and told their own personal stories about it. And also listening to the questions that some of the people had, especially the younger people who may not have heard about it or had very little knowledge about it, to hear things firsthand from people like, we had to put tin plates up on the wall so that the air wouldn't come in. That their experience of reading a note basically saying they had to leave their homes and lose everything. Hearing it, I think, firsthand made such a difference.
Well, maybe we could either go around, or also I just want to welcome you to be in conversation with each other about kind of some of the memories that you have about being, I mean, Andy, I know for you it's been many years worth, but of being on the pilgrimages with CAIR, and kind of what are some things that happened there? Like, what were some things that you all did together, or learned from each other, or challenges you faced, those kinds of things?
I think one of the values of the pilgrimage is like promoting some real understanding among different peoples, Muslim community, Japanese American community, many communities. During the 3 days journey, we have a lot of opportunities to talk one-to-one, get to know people. For most people, I don't think they do have the exposure or knowledge. So just being able to talk with people, create some connections, build some friendships, finding out the commonalities that we all have. For the Japanese American community, it was an immigrant community. For those of us who are Buddhist, there's also been discrimination against on a religious basis too within the Japanese American community. So kind of being able to share those things with Muslims from all over the world, coming from all over different countries, it's valuable. It breaks down a lot of those barriers between people, helps break down some of the stereotypes.
And there's also my second pilgrimage. There was a shared discrimination incident because I believe when we, during the 3 days, really we get there on a Friday night, we have a barbecue and we chat and fold paper cranes, tsuru, so that, we could, well, at least the youth are supposed to fold tsuru, and they're supposed to string 1,000. And, but anyways, we'll put that one aside. And then the second day we go out to Manzanar. And then after we get back from Manzanar, people go out to do two different things. One is either eat at Yamatani's, which is the Japanese restaurant right next door, or go to the bowling alley. And, the youth like to go to the bowling alley. The first year we went there, no problem. And it was dark. It was some sort of special neon light thing or whatever it was. So the second year we went, it was all lit up. We had a group of youths, Japanese American youths, and people from other groups. We also had our Muslim youths, and a number of them were female, and they had their hijabs on. And we got into the bowling alley, and they refused us service. That's a shared discrimination that we had, and that really, I think, especially for the youth who've never really experienced that kind of discrimination and refusal of service, that was a learning lesson, I think, for especially our Japanese American youth who were there. And I was really proud of the group that was there, because they all galvanized and came together and questioned the people at the bowling alley, saying, why can't we bowl, countering all the excuses they had. And I think after that event, and I'll hand it to Andy to talk about that, but we didn't remain silent. Do you want to kind of follow up on that?
Yeah, that was real eye-opener for many people. And like Josh says, it was a learning experience for many people to go through that. But what came out of that was that, as we protested and started reaching out to the local community, we found many supporters there who didn't share that kind of a racist or Islamophobic reaction to a group like ours. In fact, the local Native Americans were some of the most outstanding supporters. They said, we want to welcome you to our community here, and we'd like to have a cultural exchange with the Muslim, Japanese American, Native American communities together. So the Akamaya Culture Group started us organizing a culture exchange every year. And there got to be so much interest in that, support from local public officials, other community organizations. in that area that the bowling alley backed down, and they started letting us, bowl there. And actually, the bowling alley was later sold to someone else who had a much different, more open attitude. So something very negative started out, but then turned into something very positive. And now we've been working with the Native American community there for the past 5 years.
That's a great story.
And that's the birth of our cultural exchange.
Yeah, that's so great.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie and Mel, do you want to bring in anything about kind of memories of either with Florin or San Jose in person or virtual during COVID Manzanar pilgrimages?
I think for me, one of the most powerful events that we did on our in-person trip was our bystander training, led by Osama, like while we were in the bus. And so the perspective there was that we as bystanders, we as the privileged group, the Japanese American community, if we see someone being discriminated against, there are certain practices, certain things that you can do to support the victim, whoever's being attacked. And there's specific ways of like things that you can do. You can approach to try and de-escalate, you can record, and you need to hold your phone sideways to get more of a like good visual on what's happening. But I think we thought that it was so powerful, and I was like, great, I'll know what to do if this ever happens as a bystander. But then COVID happened, and we were like, whoa, that was a major like perspective change for me, because I was like, my family, my friends, we're not the bystanders anymore. We are the targeted people. And so we were really lucky to have another CAIR representative, Courtney, come to our virtual event and provide that bystander training to the Japanese American community. And I thought that was really powerful, because it was the first time that I was like, oh, like, I guess I felt like a minority at that point. I was like, oh, this is not safe for me. Like, I was like, this is what our Muslim community members like think about every time they go out to the store, every time they go to Costco, every time they're like walking up and down the street. There's been more and more Asian hate crimes, and I'm like, you know what, Grandma and Papa, like, you have to stay at home. Like, don't go out anywhere just because of these random attacks. Like, we want to make sure that you're safe. Like, I need to make sure I'm safe as well. So I think that was definitely a huge change in perspective, and I guess very insightful for what other minority groups are facing when they go out into the world. And I guess I had been lucky enough to never think like that. I was like, oh, I am the privileged one. I will stand up for you. But I see now how important it is that I'm able to protect myself and the people that I care about, and how meaningful it is to have allies who will stand up for me and people like me if we were to be attacked. So I think that was a huge shift that I really appreciate, and it definitely has changed how I move forward in the world.
I think for me, that was also, I would want to piggyback off of that. That was also, the bystander training was one of the most significant parts, because my parents actually went to our first pilgrimage that we hosted in San Jose, and that was special for me. As like Sansei, they weren't really involved in the kind of incarceration experience before that, and then they did, and it was like really special. And now my dad is the head of the Pan Asian like group that he has at his company, and has asked me to like give bystander training to the group, because I think there are various Asians. He works in like a lab, so there are first generation Chinese Americans, there are first generation Japanese, there are South Asians. There's so many different people in that group, and I think everyone can benefit from bystander training, because the daily experience of when you see something happening in the street is extremely different than when, okay, I'm in the safety of my own home, they're telling me, okay, here's a scenario, let's break it down. But I think that the way that CAIR does it is super, super helpful with the role playing, the hands-on experience. That was super important, and now I'm able to like provide that to different communities, which is really cool.
Neat.
Well, are there other things that you wanted to bring into the conversation about your experience with pilgrimages in general, or in particular solidarity between the Japanese American and Muslim American communities, or JACL and CAIR? Any other memories or highlights or personal significance?
But I think joining the JACL and like understanding how our cultural history has affected our lives and the like intergenerational like trickle down because of that, and how we are starting to reclaim it. It's been very empowering, and to not only to learn about my own culture and history, but to learn about how, like, unfortunately, it's like nothing special. Like, it's happened to all of these other minority groups around us, and how we can use, I guess, these like grassroots communities and like networks that the JA's created to sort of support these other minority groups that need our help and maybe need our experience, or just, I don't know, would like some allyship or some understanding from other minority groups. I think that that's really powerful, and it's given me, I guess, a larger perspective on being a citizen of the world. I think I'm less selfish now, hopefully, because I have a better understanding of the suffering and injustices that other minority groups have faced as well. So I'm really grateful to have joined the JACL to kind of had a light be shined on how ignorant I was before.
One thing I want to add is like how involved everyone from CARE was. Like, I remember meeting, because I was a sophomore in college, so I was 19 when I first went on the pilgrimage, and I was mostly like, oh, my grandma was in incarceration camps, I want to learn more. And then when we actually got there and we met everyone, it was just so apparent to me how involved the entire Muslim community was, like, and just how socially justice motivated and centered they were. And it was very inspiring, because I was like, oh man, I don't know enough about my history or anything, because they are so passionate about like their group, and it's very inspiring to me as a fellow youth to see that in another group, that, oh man, like they're super involved. I should, like, that motivates me to be more involved as well. And I think I don't know if it's like the people that are like picked or everyone in CARE, but it was just so apparent to me that they were there for the right reasons, you know? And I think that that was super important for all of us, because sometimes I feel like as youth situated in like a modern world, you kind of are a guest in other people's cultures. You eat their food, you celebrate holidays, but you don't get to be a part of their struggle, right? And that's super important, to understand one another. We don't want to just be visitors, we want to like actually be allies. So um, it was really cool to meet youth from CARE in that way.
Yeah, you know, the partnership, it's it keeps evolving, right? Um, like up in Sacramento, I took the bystander intervention training initially at CARE, at their main office. And after uh, the anti-Asian hate rhetoric started ramping up, luckily in Sacramento, it isn't as bad as like in the Bay Area, LA, New York. But I think our communities have started joining together to do something about the rhetoric and to try to make people feel safe to go out of their homes, especially the elderly. And you know what? Part of what I've been doing with other groups is trying to find solutions or something that can be done. And all I have to do is send an email to CARE and say, hey, are you guys going to get going on the bystander intervention training? Because we have lots of people who want to volunteer to be escorts for seniors. They need that training. And Osama, as a matter of fact, he's the trainer for our area as well. And so he's working with our groups to start that back up and train volunteers for our senior escort project, so that they know or have some training on what to do, and to train trainers, so that our groups can start training other people. And I think those are the kind of things that have developed over the years, where we work with each other so much. It's so easy to help each other. And I know the resource, they know who to contact when they need somebody to come support them. When they're doing a press conference, for example, the Muslim ban 2, right? All they had to do was contact us, and we were there for the press conference. When we need help, they're there. And I think that's what's so good about the partnership with CAIR and our different JACLs. It really makes a difference, and it's an example for other groups to show how we can all get along, and united, we're stronger. So that's what I see in the partnership between JACLs and CAIR.
Well, there's another example here locally. CAIR now does a statewide Muslim Youth Leadership Project here at Sacramento in the state capitol. And I remember when the CAIR chapter here wanted to organize that, they met with a number of Japanese and Chinese Americans here who had run an Asian youth leadership conference out of the state capitol for many years. So I know that there was a number of meetings with BOSSM and other CAIR leaders to get that organized and to build that program. And it's been very, very successful, to try to get the youth politically empowered, politically aware, involved, and, creating that pipeline for the next generation of leaders. But I know a lot of the Japanese Americans who helped form that program, 20, 25 years ago, were really happy to work with CAIR in the Muslim community to get the MYLP program going also.
Well, thank you all so much. It's been so great to hear both the information you've shared about the experiences, but also just the personal, how meaningful it's been to you and what it's brought to you from your own cultural, religious, and histories, and what you've been able to get out of the connection and solidarity with CAIR and the Manzanar Pilgrimages and beyond. So I really appreciate all that you brought to this and all the work that you do cross-culturally and in so many different ways. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah,
Thank you.